This is all of it on WNYC. I'm Allison Stewart. It's an amazing story that happens to be true. The world's most famous mime, Marcel Marceau, spent his youth as part of the French resistance in World War II. His real name was Marcel Mengele, and he helped save Jewish orphans by smuggling them out of Nazi-occupied France on a train that was headed for the Swiss Alps. From that nugget of truth comes a 100-minute play co-written by Ethan Slater and Marcel Pailet. It's called Marcel on the Train. How was Marcel able to keep the children quiet, entertained, and not scared? Who were the children? Would they have memories of this moment? Would they live long enough to have memories of this moment? What would happen when Nazi forces confront them? Would they make it to the Swiss Alps? Marcel on the Train is playing at the Classic Stage Company on East 13th and is up until March 22nd. Joining us now is Tony nominee Ethan Slater, who co-wrote the play and who plays Marcel. Hi, Ethan.
Hi.
And also Marcel Pailet, co-writer and director of the play as well. Hi, Marcel.
How are you?
I'm doing well. So, Ethan, when did you first learn that Marcel Marceau was a member of the French resistance? Because I just learned on last Sunday.
Yeah. It was a fact that snuck up on me because it seems like something that I should have known. And first of all, just thank you for that sort of succinct summary of the play. I don't think I've quite heard it spoken about in that way, and it just feels really true to what we're trying to do, these questions of the future and what happens when you're stared down with the face of fascism. But no, I was doing research on silent film comedians, on Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, with whom I'm deeply obsessed. And I got into this little era of history where Charlie Chaplin was being accused of being Jewish. You know, I use accused because that's how it was being levied. And so I, like a real scholar, I Googled Charlie Chaplin Jewish. And I found this story about a young Jewish boy who fell in love with Charlie Chaplin seeing a movie of his in the 30s in France. As he got a little older, he joined the French resistance, and, that man grew up and became Marcel Marceau. And I was just, my mind was blown by this, by the fact that, I grew up going to Jewish day school, and I went to Jewish summer camp, and anybody who's had one of those experiences knows that you're given books of the famous Jewish people all the time. Every baseball player who was Jewish, every actor, you just know these stories, and I didn't know this story. It was
Interesting.
It was like the blank spot for me. So I read up a little bit on it, and I called Marshall and I said, I think that there's something really beautiful here. This sort of like thriller story, this sort of life is beautiful story, but the story of Marcel Marceau in a moment that we don't know about. I knew all about his work as a mime, but I didn't know about his work as a freedom fighter.
As a writer, what stood out to you about the story?
Well, first of all, just to say, the day he called me was the day that my son was born. So,
nice.
we texted him. I
I was calling because his son was born. To be fair,
I'm going to make you look good, Ethan.
Thank you.
First, I sent him the picture that's like 8 pounds 7 ounces. Baby and mommy are doing
Wants to
great.
write a play?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. So he called and he's like, "Oh my God, he's beautiful. How's Kelly? Can I send you guys anything? This might not be the right time, but did you know in 1943 a young Marcel Marceau smuggled you?" And I was like, Ethan. That's very interesting. This is not the right time. But this story of this man before he became the world's most famous mime, performing this act of silent heroism in the face of fascism, I think to us was a story that was interesting on its face. And then, not to mention the fact that, especially now, 4 years later, we're both, Jewish fathers raising young Jewish children, so it felt very personal. The thought of placing this story on one train ride was exciting and thrilling to us. And then, moreover, and also, taking in the director side of my brain, how could we incorporate the theatrical tools of Marceau in the telling of the story of a young Marcel Marceau? We knew it would be a play with talking, but how could we incorporate silence and stillness and silliness and these things that were so uniquely Marceau? So that was our jumping off point, and we really didn't look back from it.
Ethan, what did you study about Marcel Marceau, about the way he moves, or maybe even the way he spoke later in life that you were able to use in your portrayal?
As an actor, I think the fun challenge about this is it's Marcel before he becomes Marceau. He's a young guy. He hasn't gone to drama school. He hasn't studied mime yet. He just loves Charlie Chaplin, basically. So finding the way to embody the person who becomes Marcel Marceau, and then by the end of the play, sort of becoming the Marcel that we know. So I was just watching a lot of videos and sitting in my room and trying to emulate what he's doing and trying to get the little gestures and details and see where he's very balletic and where he's sort of idiosyncratic. And then working with Marshall, we did a lot of just one-on-one in a rehearsal room, the two of us, like with a mirror, messing around, trying to figure it out. So it's just a lot of like, painstaking watching videos.
I should also add that
Yeah.
we worked with, we have a movement
yes.
director who,
Really
who
important.
helped sculpt the movement, and Ethan worked with two mimes who are disciples of Marcel Marceau.
Oh,
So we
interesting.
have that secondhand, Marceau passed away, 15 years ago or so, but so we feel like we have that secondhand knowledge that has been incredibly useful for Ethan and for the whole company.
Yeah, it's been invaluable.
Yeah, what piece of information did they give you as they were watching you sort of develop the character?
It's called the pop.
Yeah. These
pop?
little things, these little when you're establishing a move, the little pops. It's like
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
Right? When
Just
you're-
like to give the object some certainty, and some things seem a little bit obvious once they're said, but the mime tells you where to look, right? So the gaze is really important for where your eyes go. These elements of tension and where you're floating and leading with your chest and all these little, it's just tiny little things that have been really, really helpful.
Because as a mime you're interacting with nothing. There's no props, there's no stuff, right? So you have to define the thing for the audience before you interact and do a story with it. People won't go on the journey if they don't know what's happening. And when there's nothing there, there's just it has to be so physical and precise, and you have to have the right bounce in your fingers and echo with your fingers. It's all super interesting to watch.
You have to explain to them, I am on the train. This is
Yeah.
the train door, and
This is a
now I am
car.
opening the door.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I am speaking with co-writers of the play Marcel on the Train, Ethan Slater and Marshall Pailet. Marshall directs the play. Ethan stars in it. It's part of Marcel Marceau when he was part of the French resistance who's helped save orphans. It's at the CSC stages. I have to ask you about this. Casting adults as children. What directions do you give adults so that they could play scared children riding on a train?
Yeah. So first, just to say, it's the story of this young man saving these children, and we don't have children in the show; we have adults. The germ of that idea was the thing about saving a child's life is you're not just saving the child; you're saving decades of life. Everything that child is going to become, what they're going to do, and so it was important to us that we represented on the stage. What Marcel really is saving, which is decades and decades of life. So that was the germ of that idea. And in terms of directing the actors, I mean, look, I don't. They're really, really good actors. I don't have to direct them too hard. But the thing that we talked about was not how do I shift my voice, how do I shift my body. It's about getting into the mindset of a child. In this case, they're all 12. One of the big things we talked about was the dissonance between real and perceived stakes. Some things kids, we both have kids, there's things that they think are scary that aren't that scary to us. And there's some things that they don't think are that scary that they really should be scared of. And so it's kind of defining, how do you feel about this thing, and coming to peace with the fact that the audience is going to have a different opinion than you. This is a show where these kids are escaping Nazis. Their entire life, there is a Nazi in the show. And for the audience, that's really scary. It's really scary to watch that man come on stage in the jacket with the swastika and the armband, and explaining to the actors, and just remember to telling them, like, how many Nazis have you seen today? 100? 150? It's scary, but it's your life. It's your stasis. So that was a big part of
That's
getting into the
interesting.
psychology of a 12-year-old.
So each child represents something different on the train. What's the 4 children represent to you on the train?
Well, that's a good question. In reality, the true story is he had probably 20 or so per trip. We obviously wanted an amalgamation of those characters. They represent different things. So we've done the little mapping, the very Jewish storytelling mapping of the 4 children on the Passover Seder story. I don't know that that's quite exactly right, though. I think we have the version of an idealist who grows up holding really fast to the ideologies of right and wrong. We have the without judgment pessimist, somebody who has been through something that is incredibly painful, and so she's looking for what's going to go wrong. We have
The chameleon.
the shapeshifter who is going
I will
to
do whatever I have to do to survive. I will say anything. I will do anything. And those people tend to be very successful, very, very successful.
And then we have somebody, Marshall already referred to stasis. We have somebody who the stasis is this moment of trauma, this like deeply traumatizing moment. And so she is existing in that. And, if we were going to do the Seder for children, she's the one who doesn't know how to ask, So and I think that's...
The nice thing is, since we knew that we were going to fictionalize this train ride, we have yet to find any, we don't know who he saved in real life. We haven't, we've looked and we haven't been able to find. If you're out there, come at us. But we knew that we could design children that would give the story maximum tension and allow us to have this philosophical debate about the value of delight in the face of horror. And so, we were able to design the children to make Ethan's life as Marcel as difficult and delightful as possible.
One of the children, she's a bit of a pragmatist, like you said, and she's not like an antagonist towards Marcel.
Pragmatist is a better word than I used. Yeah,
She certainly is foil.
Yeah, because Marcel has this good nature, and she's pragmatic. What do you see as her role in the play?
Look, I think that at the center of this play, it's a cast of 6, and all of the actors are amazing, but the central relationship is between Marcel and this one child. Her name is Berta. He is the ever optimist, and she is the ever, we can call it pragmatist, but sometimes that comes across as pessimist. And I think that for us, it kind of, the two of them represent the two sides of the drama mask. And ultimately, what the show is about is the synthesis of these two perspectives, and how Marcel Marceau, as an artist, was someone who incorporated both like delight and positivity and never ignored the horror or the death that was inherent in his upbringing. He brought both to his art, and that's what made his art so special. And so that relationship kind of informs his ultimate worldview, and I think our worldview as well.
It's interesting. Julie Benko was here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, last week performing, and I think she performed it in Williamstown. Is that right?
She did, yeah.
Yeah.
She did. She's in Ragtime
right now.
She's a fantastic performer. Good friend.
Yes. I want to talk about the stage at CSC, Classic Stage Theater Company. It's a thrust stage, means it goes like out into the audience, and there's audience around 3 sides of it. What's challenging for you as an actor on a stage like that?
Oh, there's a lot of challenges. I think the biggest one is just trusting that, Marshall is our eyes, because you always feel a little bit like you're giving somebody your back. Backting can be very exciting and very dynamic, but it also is like, I don't want to be neglecting somebody. I don't want to be. I want to make sure people are being let in the right way. So there's like the challenge of getting out of your own head in those moments.
Yeah, and just to illustrate what Allison is saying, like imagine the stage as a big, long rectangle, and the audience is on 3 sides. And so most, 3/4 of the audience is on the big sides of the rectangle, but then there's some audience that's all the way downstage or in the front. And so we always have to be, this is a story that nobody knows. This isn't a revival. The only way that they will understand the story is if they hear everything and see everything. And it's hard to see everything when, the actors are playing to 3 sides. And so we spent a lot of time making sure that everyone in the house had a dynamic, exciting viewpoint where they understand the story at all times. And I would like to say it came easy to us. It didn't. It took a lot of work.
But that said, I will also say that there are huge, huge benefits to this thrust. We're talking about the challenges, but it's also, as an audience, you're in the show.
Oh, yeah.
You're immersed in it. You feel implicated by it. You feel like a part. We're not going to bring you up on stage. It's very safe. I know audience participation is terrifying, so it's not that, or at least it is for me. But the experience is incredibly intimate because of that thrust. I've done a couple of shows there, and it's. I think that is a really special thing, especially when it's a show that takes place on a train ride. I think you really feel like you're on the train with us.
And
ideally.
I'll say that my
you're an Assassins. That's right.
Yes.
I saw Assassins.
and he was great in it.
Thank you.
Yeah, playing the guitar, acting. What a guy! What a talent you are.
A little bit of each.
Wow.
I'm going to bring it down now. I'm going to ask a serious question.
Please.
Well, they are serious, but this is a very serious question. I'm curious between the conversations that you guys had when you were writing the play that has laughs and it uses clowning, but it's talking about something really tragic. talking about kids surviving the Holocaust. What were those conversations like? How did they go? What did you come up with?
Sure. I've got an angle.
Great. Do you want to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
When we were writing this, we were looking for inspiration, tonal inspiration, to the artists of the time, Marcel Marceau, obviously, but also like Charlie Chaplin. These were artists who did not shy away from the horrors of their time, or the Holocaust, right? Like they addressed it head on in their art with humor, and they used that humor in order to try to defang and disempower. If we laugh at the thing, it's not so scary, and if it's not so scary, then you feel like you can do something about it. Mm-hmm. This is not a story about today, explicitly, but it is a story about the past where we can learn lessons from that past to have resolve about today. And just like those artists back then didn't shy away from that, we didn't want to shy away from it either.
Yeah. I agree with that. I would say that it takes place in the past, and yet it is still about today. This is happening, right?
Yeah.
Like we talked a lot about how this is the story about how children have the right to grow up without being hunted by soldiers, without being hunted by police. And yet we live in a time where that is happening. The Holocaust is a story that a lot of people, and a lot of the New York theater-going audience is very familiar with. We know that it happened then, and it is happening now, and I think a lot of people know that it's happening now. But I think that hopefully this is a lens to see today through the past. In terms of the humor of it, unless you wanted to...
Yeah, well, I'm going to piggyback.
Yeah.
We Marcel Marceau, as an artist, would often try to be a bringer of light and delight, and his characters would be dealing with these little kind of everyday horrors. And this is a story about him trying to be this beacon of hope and resolve and delight for these kids in one of the darkest events in, modern history. Mm-hmm. And I think that I know that we hope that this show in 2026 can be a bringer of light and delight, but also resolve for audiences who likely, like we are struggling and reckoning with the world that is seemingly darker by the day. We're scared. And the way that we reckon with that is through art, and we hope that receiving the art makes the reckoning easier for our audience.
And look, not for nothing, it's also not exclusively, but quintessentially Jewish thing to take these moments of deep pain and trauma and laugh either at it or through it or with it or alongside it. This isn't Mel Brooks. We're not laughing at it, but we are laughing in it. And it's been an interesting thing. I mean, you're bringing this up, and we had renewed conversations about it when we brought in audience members, right? Like, because we were doing so many, as we were writing it, we were taking it very seriously in every aspect. But when you're rehearsing and you're making jokes and you're trying to find the levity in the moment, you can sometimes forget that audiences are seeing it for the first time. And so we were confronted with our first audiences with this idea that people are too nervous to laugh, too scared to laugh, or their laughter comes out of their nervousness, or we were like, oh right, it is the audience is the other cast member, and so that has renewed these conversations in a way that has made the preview process pretty amazing.
It's a very fun room. Everyone in it is Jewish, essentially. And so it's a lot of, but by room, I mean rehearsal room, all the actors and the stage managers and the designers, the creative team. And so there's just a lot of jokes. There's a lot of yucks and a lot of talk about bagels and lox, so it is fun engaging the audience with it and seeing, bringing them on the train with us and teaching them the role of delight as well. I think people are really enjoying it.
Something I have to ask you about, the lighting, because that is magnificent.
Right? Ain't it cool?
It's really, really cool.
Brandon Sterling Baker.
Who is it?
Brandon Sterling Baker.
Glad you said it.
Yeah.
When did that become apparent that the lighting was going to be integral to the play?
I interviewed our lighting designer about a year ago, and he's an amazing designer. And he, I was saying this to Ethan this morning, that he is one of the creative forces that really sculpt this version of the show. He was always pushing for, like, what's the most beautiful, what's the most Marceau version of this idea from a lighting perspective, but also from a writing perspective.
Yeah.
And I encouraged him to, like, go arty, go beautiful, go silhouette. And he, the lighting is it's spectacular, and it's bold, and I'm really proud for people to see his work.
What's the best advice, direction you got from your director, Ethan?
I haven't gotten anything good. He says a lot. I mean, in his defense, I mostly tune him out. Yeah. You know what? That's a really good question. I think one of the benefits of working so closely with a collaborator, Marshall and I have been writing together almost every day since 2021. 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're like on year 6
Wow.
of being like incredibly close friends and collaborators, which means that when we transitioned into the roles of director and actor again, he's said so much to me already about this role that you kind of wonder what are the other things that he can possibly say. And yet every day there's something good. I just wish that I had a better answer instead of rambling about nothing for.
It takes a lot of trust, right? Because Ethan is an extraordinary performer, as you
disagree.
Sure. But he is amazing, but he also has an incredible sense of stage. He knows when he's looking at people and when he's not, and how to craft performances. And so it takes a lot of trust for me to be like, you think that you're facing the audience in this moment. I promise you that you're not. Do what I'm asking of you. It'll make you look better. And he does. And so I appreciate that trust.
Well, okay. So that's a logistical one. So Marshall's great with the logistics, of course. He's like very good at creating a stage picture. But actually, as you started talking, it made me think about just the moments of stakes. I think Marshall's a really brilliant writer. Anybody who's seen it, he's a brilliant writer. And he combines that with his directing in a beautiful way to create stage pictures that are rooted in the storytelling and in the emotions of these characters. He's like a deeply attuned director who listens to actors, obviously. But I think one of the big things was we have this opening bit where Marcel is trying to win over the pragmatist, and it's difficult. And we've gone back and forth a lot about how broad it is, how successful it is, how whatever it is, how many swings and misses there are. And I think early on, Marshall was just like, hey, just like remember, you can't let her know about the stakes, but the stakes are outrageously high. And I think that was a beautiful thing.
The name of the play is Marcel on a Train. It's playing at the Classic Stage Company on East 13th, and it's up until March 22nd. My guests have been Ethan Slater and Marcel Pailet. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Allison.
I'm Allison Stewart. I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you. I'll meet you back here tomorrow.